Right then. Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us for our third part of the pilot of this Knowledge and Community Network. And we had a great webinar in January talking about building community engagement. If you want a copy of the recording, you can contact me. Then we had a meetup in London. And now this is the third part where Michael in a second is going to talk you through how to use blogging to support your knowledge or community activities. We've kept you all on mute so we can listen to Michael, but you can ask a question at any time during the chat and we'll stop and we'll come to you. If you want to introduce yourself, where you're calling in from, just helps us visualise who's on the call today. We've got a couple of slides at the end asking you for feedback, and then we'll see whether we're going to continue these. But first of all, a very warm welcome to Michael. Michael and I have been discussing these sorts of things for about 10 or 15 years, and we just thought we'd open it up to more people. So it's great to have Michael join us and share with us his insights on blogging. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. And say before I start, I'm not an expert in blogging, but this is some of the things I'm starting to see and how I've been using it for some of the communities I work with as well. So today, we'll talk about sort of blogging and using it as a facilitator for your community. And we've got a whole range of different things we're going to go through. So a little bit about me and what organisation I work for. We'll talk about topics, formats, promotion reviews, and also styles of blogging as well that you might want to try out. And then near the end, we're going to talk about more about what the Knowledge Community Network's going to be doing in the future if we carry on, and anything else that Nancy wants to add to it as well. So thank you very much for coming along today. This is a horrible picture of me. I'm not the most photographic person in the world. So my name is Michael Norton. I'm the Community and Knowledge Manager at KnowledgeHub. A little bit about KnowledgeHub. We're an online community collaboration platform. We've been running for about 12 years in different variations. Started off as the community of practice for local government, but over time we adapted our name to KnowledgeHub. We've got about 2,500 communities on that platform and 150,000 people using it across the public sector in the UK. So been a lot of experience of sort of working with different people and sort of getting them to work in the way of community as well. So that's been some of the interesting things we've been doing. With any sort of presentation I've been doing, I always seem to come back with a Wikipedia entry. So if you want to read out what a blog is, this is the obvious one. You always go to Wikipedia and you can find out about it. But I didn't want to read it out for you because you can read that quite easily. But what I wanted to do as well is just find out a little bit about your experience of actually blogging. So this is where Nancy's going to put up a nice little poll for me. I'll just find out sort of what experience we have of people in the audience here around blogging. Are you regular? Is it something you do an awful lot? Is it something that you do it every now and then? Do you not do it at all? So it'd be interesting to see what sort of experience we have in the people here. So I'll give it
Hopefully you can all see a poll pop up now, and you can just click on the answer that's most relevant to you. We'll give you a couple of more seconds and then we'll share the results with you. I've just seen Rebecca share it on the chat, and I just wondered if everyone can see this, I hope.
Like it, I can see it moving. It's great.
Give it a couple more seconds and then I'll share it. Right. 3, 2, 1. Can you see that now?
I can see the results, so that's quite
Can everyone see that now? So, you summarize.
So for this, I mean, most people do it occasionally. We've got a few that don't do it. Some that do it once a month. We've got one expert that does it every day. So that's amazing. Like they can now take over my presentation from now on because they do a lot more than I do, and once a week as well. So it's a good mixture of people. So we've got some experts. So hopefully, I'm not sort of telling you things you already know. But some of the other people here doing it once a month occasionally or not. It's really just the idea of that it's a way you can try out. It's something that you can do with your community to help them in some ways. Okay, so do you want to close the poll down then, Nancy? Okay, I've got to move it as well. I can close that down. Right, there we go. Okay, so most people out there probably have come across blogging in different formats. So LinkedIn has technically a blogging element of it. WordPress is one of the big ones. Tumblr has been around for a long while. Bloggers actually were the first one I ever used. And also Medium. I've not actually used much of Medium. I've been reading on it a little bit, but I've not actually participated in it. My first blog I ever wrote, unfortunately, was on the 7th of July 2005. it was a day after London won the Olympics, and unfortunately that was also the day of the London bombing, and I'd actually gone into work a little bit earlier, and lucky enough I probably had done, because I went through Aldgate, which is one of the places that got attacked, and I was writing a blog at the time, and I didn't write another one for a year after that. So I was a bit worried if I do anything along those lines, it might happen, something strange might happen again. But this is my sort of introduction to blogging, was just me being excited about the London Olympics, and from that I started getting into more knowledge management and community management, and then started seeing how you could start to use it to sort of showcase what your community is about. For me, I think blogging is a great tool for a facilitator of any community. One, it gives you sort of a list of all the things that the community has actually done. What a lot of people try and do, especially with online communities, they tell people what they're going to do. But it's a lot more interesting when people are actually seeing what the community is actually doing, because that's going to bring people into the group. And I've even tried to use it in some of my appraisals in the past. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me put a link to my blog when they asked me, what have you been up to this year? I had to go back through my blog posts of all the key things I've been up to and where I've been supporting people as well. But it's a great way of capturing the knowledge and experience and things that have been happening in the community you're working with, because a lot of people forget about all the amazing things that you've been up to and what things have been shared. And it's also a good refresher and reminder at the end of the year or different time periods for your communities. These are all the great things we've been doing. This is how we're starting to meet our objectives that we're working towards. And also some of the great stories get shared as well. So for me, I think this idea of a blogging element for your community is really, really important. I'll take you through some fundamentals, and I've got a couple of experts here that write blogs all the time, but I want to pick some key points out from how you actually get into blogging. It can be quite simple, and it's not too complex. A lot of people think, oh, I have to really think about it in quite a bit of detail, but really you don't have to. So some of the fundamentals, I'm going to take you through 4 elements of it. One about picking a topic and title, looking at formatting and optimizing the blog, and the 2 that a lot of people forget about is one around promoting your blog and also reviewing the performance. So that's what I'm going to take you through, really simple elements to it. So topic and title. Quite often people write blog posts which go all over the place, and it's really difficult to sort of understand what's been happening. So try and pick one topic and focus on that per post. Try and make the value of the post clear. Quite often you don't really see that. You can't really understand what it's all about. If you can, make sure the title describes what the post is all about. You're not trying to do clickbaiting, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And a little tip I came across a while ago was, if you can, try and keep your title between 50 and 60 characters. If you're putting things out on the web, especially on Google, it shows the first 50 to 60 characters. After that, it starts going ... So it sort of cuts off the title. So by putting it 50 to 60 characters, actually makes it erases it up on the Google search. So that's something I didn't know about, but that's quite interesting to do that. There's also some ideas around secret formulas to write in your headline or your topic title as well. So Natalie Nahar and Fusebox use this idea of using a number or a trigger word plus adjective plus keyword plus a promise, and then you get your headline or your subject title. So there's different ways you can play around of adapting how you get the title, because that's going to be really important for people to look at it. That's what's going to drag people into looking at the content. If you look at the idea of clickbaiting, they use a similar sort of aspect, and that's what they're trying to say from Fusebox and Natalie, that there's elements of that you can actually adapt for your own use. So 9 things no one knew about Princess Leah. I still want to find out what happens when the man does hug a lion. Actually, when I clicked on it, I couldn't really work out what was going on now, but it made me do that. So these are things that you can actually learn from and adapt, but it's got to be something that's going to actually get people to come in, and it's going to tell the story, what your headline actually matches up to as well. So I took the idea of this, my title for this presentation is there a way I can improve it? There's a system on CoSchedule where you can type in your title, and it comes back with a headline score and gives you some recommendations of what you can do on it as well. And also Advanced Marketing Institute gave my topic title a 45% emotional market value. I'm not a great writer, I openly admit that. I'm not the best. So I thought, okay, I'll play around with it, see if I can make it even better. I probably spent about 10 minutes just typing in different variations, trying to use the formula that I showed earlier on to see if I could make it better. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the scoring up any higher. And maybe I'm not a copywriter, I'm not an editor, I'm not someone who has been a very strong writer all my life really, but it's just like interesting, just me tweaking a few words in here and the different sort of scores I was getting. So something that if you're struggling for a headline that say Schedule and even HubSpot have some really cool little tools that you can use just to put in your topic title for your blog, and it gives you some ideas of things you might want to tweak to make it more impressive, and also get people to click on it as well. Other things that you start to see on a lot of blogs out there is around the way they lay out their blog posts. So using images is always really good, but Whitespace is also a good thing as well. Having nice sections, headers as part of it, so splitting it up into nice bits so it's easy to understand, using bullets and numbering, bold any important elements within it. What that helps to do is that it doesn't become messy. It keeps it nice and simple. I mean, most of us are skimming through web pages or looking on their mobile phone. You want it sort of nice, structured way that you can understand, so you can actually read through it, understand what you want to do, then take it away if you need to take anything away from it. So keeping it nice and simple, nice and clean, actually makes it easier for people to understand what's going on now, and also it's got nice and simple structure. The other thing about blog length is also, I mean, one of the things that we did in the previous webinar with Nancy, we talked about the amount of time you have to facilitate a community, and if you've only got a short amount of time, so if you are going to write a blog, you have to think about what's the perfect length, how much time have I got in it. So I mean, if you look at HubSpot, they reckon that a blog post should be around 2,000, just over 2,000 to 2,500 words, schedule around 2,500, buffer say 1.6, mods say there's no perfect length. So again, that's time, and you think about it, HubSpot say that if anyone's doing this probably every day, you're probably spending 1 to 2 hours writing a 500-word blog post. And as a facilitator community, you're doing other things as well. You're doing different work. Sometimes the community is added on to your current work. How much time do you actually have to spare? So think about keeping things nice and simple, looking at adapting things that you've already out there, rather than having to start from scratch all the time. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And if you think about that, a good idea you can think about using is the idea of content curation. So there's a load of stuff that's been written about content curation, but just by following Twitter hashtags, I mean, the ones I follow, #CMGR, #KMers, join other online communities, get newsletters that are coming out. So we've got someone here, David Gertein's newsletter comes out on a regular basis. That's really useful because you see what other people are out there, you see what people are talking about, and it allows you to sort of bring content to you, and then you can cherry pick what you're looking to do and talk to your community about. Not only that, you've also got other things that your community is doing that you can start writing up about as well. And once you start doing that, that means that you've got a whole range of things that can help spark ideas and new content, new ideas, new blog posts, things that you might want to even try out in your community, which you can then write up, which is really useful, rather than having to think about it from scratch every time. And again, I mean, I'll just put down some lists here. Some of the people that you think, if you're doing knowledge management or community management, I just picked 7. There's hundreds of different great people out there writing some amazing stuff out there around. So, my old colleague Steve Dow did some great stuff on community and collaboration. You got people like Richard Middleton doing stuff at Fever Bee. And I've even got my one there, which is a really poor blog, but it's there and it's available. And mine's called Stop, Collaborate and Listen. It's based on the Vanilla Ice lyrics for Ice Ice Baby. So if you want to know that. But there's some really good stuff out there that people are already doing. You can look at how they're writing things, what you can adapt, what things they're talking about, and say how you can maybe use some of these elements for your community as well. The 2 bits that a lot of people forget about is once they've written a blog, they leave it, they put it at some site somewhere, and they don't tell anyone about it. But don't forget, you can share it on social media. You can get it out via internal newsletters or any community newsletters you're writing. You can even go back to previous blogs that you've written if there's a link that you can start taking from one blog to another. So you can start cross-linking as well. It's no problem going back and editing an old blog to put other links into new content that you've created as well. And also you can link to other relevant post blogs. So if it's someone that's been writing some really good material, you can go back and link to their blog and say, if you want to find out more, here's some content you might want to read, or this is my thoughts on this person's content. So it just gives you a way of adapting things rather than you always having to think you need to write something from scratch. It's got to be brand new. There's no problems adapting and tweaking things as you go along. Also then start reviewing some of the content as well. So things like number of views you've been getting on the type of content that you've been writing, number of comments, number of likes, sort of shares on different social media sites. Something I found out a little while ago, I've been playing around with LinkedIn, is that if I write a blog an article on LinkedIn, I don't get anywhere near as many views if I write a blog, say on the KnowledgeHub platform that I'm on WordPress, and then share it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure why that is, but I thought that was quite interesting. That something that you think would be quite important to LinkedIn, people writing content on there, is actually getting less views and less comments on as well. So if you're doing that, if you understand what sort of things you've been writing, the styles you've been writing it as well. I mean, some of the ones that I've got a lot of feedback on have been things around like me creating infographics as a way of blogging. They seem to get a lot more sort of shares and likes and comments on. And then some of the things I've been writing around, sort of like some of the things we've been doing as a community. So I do things called online chats on a regular basis with my community. We pick a topic, and over a 2-hour period, people answer questions around it, and then we gather that all together, then share that. There's a blog post about some of the highlights that we've been talking about, and they've been really popular. So it's about using your community as a way to share things that have been going on as well. Yeah. So one thing I've started noticing, there's actually a whole range of different styles of blogging out there. And from that, I sort of broke it down into 3 areas that people might want to use for their community. So if you're looking to promote your group or community, there's a couple of styles you can try. If you're looking to grow it, there's a couple of styles you can try. If you want to keep members in the loop, there's a couple of styles that you can use. This is really based on Rohit Bhargava's slide deck called 25 Styles of Blogging. And I've just adapted it from as I've started to see things happening out there. So as a community manager, you probably do some face-to-face events, or you go to some events out there. It's a great way of writing a blog about what's happened during these events. So instead of just letting your team know, what you can start doing is actually sharing it wider, making people aware of what's been going on. You can even get other people to jump in and help and add stuff onto this as well. So you've got all these different things that you can do, but reporting back from events is really good. And also, it's quite good for you because you get your thoughts written down. You see what other people have been writing about it as well. I mean, some events I've been to in the past, the good thing about it is that people have been tweeting about it, and then I'm liking all the tweets, and it gives me an idea that they're actually better than I am. They're good at tweeting very, very quickly. I can then gather that at the end, and I can then use that to write some content about what's happened during that event because people have actually been helping me capture it in some way. And again, it's difficult up to a point, but again, that's really useful because it does create a lot of buzz around what's been happening, especially if it's a big community event as well. So that's a useful thing to try out. List blocking is another popular one that you see out there. How many of you must have typed in top 10 things about this or top 5 ideas on this? I mean, the other day, my parents-in-law were going off to Florida. I was like, top 10 things to do in Florida. Automatically do that, and that can work quite well for your community as well. Top things you need to know about the subject area, top 5 things you need to know about this, top things you need to know about this, and it could be links to other elements on their bookmarks. It could be whatever you want, but those things are really useful, especially to try and encourage people to come to your groups. Or this is what we're talking about. If you get an expert in the field, interview them, and that's a great way of creating blogs as well. So again, if you can interview people, you can either do it by video, you got audio, you can just transcribe the whole thing as well, and that's another way of blogging because again, it's showcasing your community, showcasing what your community is all about, and also it's good for members to see what's been going on, especially if you've done things where you've managed to get maybe a bit of time with an expert, and you can even ask your community beforehand, I'm going to go meet somebody, can you give me some questions that you'd like me to ask them? And again, that makes them feel really involved in this as well, and then you got all your responses back in that way. So really useful thing to do as well, because sometimes you can't always get to meet the expert or have a conversation with the expert. This just gives you another way of bringing that content back to your community as well. If you're going to start looking at growing your group, there's nothing wrong with trying to recruit, because when you start writing about what your group's actually been up to, people start to see it, people start to share it, and then people go, I'm interested in that, and they can start coming back. So that's a really good way of doing it. So showcase what your group's actually doing and your community are actually doing, rather than saying what we're about to do. So it's quite useful. And again, you can always link back to your group. People then come back into it, so you can share that in different ways. Again, difficulty can be it's up there with it, so it takes a bit of time to write. But again, it will generate a lot of interest as well. And I've seen this in quite a few groups where they've been talking about what they've been up to, and then people will go, "Oh, can I come and join your community as well?" You can do repost blogging. as well as another way to recruit people in, saying if there's an interesting article that's been come out or a new bit of white paper from my area, because I work in sort of central and local government, it's about commentary on this, how your group's going to adapt it. I mean, GDPR is a big one across government at the moment about dealing with that. Some interesting blogs about how people are taking the GDPR process, or General Data Protection Regulation, that's coming out in May, and then saying how they're actually going to deal with it and what they're looking to do. So that's an interesting one where they're taking content from elsewhere and putting their own sort of original commentary on how they're going to deal with it and what they're looking to do. So that's been quite a useful thing I've seen out there as well. Topical blogs. I mean, there's some of the blogs I've seen on my platform. There's some people who are experts in a particular field, and that's what they always talk about. They are the ones that you go to. If you're talking, they always talk about the same subject, about how it works, what they're up to, what's new, what's coming up, and it gets them away to that. And you can do the same thing for your community. You're looking after a specific subject area. You make the community the topic area. So you get people coming back in. Again, you can curate the content, you're highlighting what's been going on in that area. So there's different ways that it gets your group and community noticed by other people out there. For some groups, if you want to keep people in the loop, especially community-wise, if there's some sort of event going on and not everyone can make it, I've seen people do live blogging. I've even done this in the past, and it's very, very difficult to do. But it can be worthwhile at the end, because not everyone can always attend different events. So actually writing in a fast-paced way, sharing this on a regular basis, gets the chance for people to find out what's going on there. And it doesn't have to always be the text-based one. You can always do video clips of things that have been going on as part of it. You've got, if anyone's ever using social media, you can drag that sort of content into it as well. So it just gives you a way of sort of curating all that content in one place. So just another way of keeping people in the loop that are not always making it. And also for people that have attended some of these events, again, you've got that option to showcase what's actually happened, because they may have missed something on as part of that. It's very similar to event blogging. It just means that you're actually doing it then and there, rather than waiting until the end and then trying to sort of sit down and see what happens as part of that event. Other styles I've seen out there is things around announcements. So it's announcement blogging. Quite often, some of the people in the community are the ones that are in the know. They're the ones that know about things before everything's happening. So they're the ones that can tell everyone that this is coming up, this is brand new, this is coming out and ready for it. And I've seen some communities in the past where they've actually been getting the content a little bit before everyone else, so they can actually talk about it beforehand, and then then the members are more in the know, so that when it's officially released, they've got their feedback already for it. So that's been an interesting way. I've seen some people use the blogging element as well, so they're showcasing it in that way. And the link blogging. And I was going to show a link here, actually, from Stan Garfield, one of the people I mentioned earlier on. I mean, Stan's got this great Google Sites page, but technically it's a link blogging of all the key people that are working in knowledge management and all their blogs. So again, you can do really simple things along those lines about just curating a list of links to key documents, key things that have been happening out there. So it's a way of sort of keeping everything going. So, and that's a bit of a sort of a quick whiz through all of this. So there's a whole range of things out there you can try. So one is just keep it nice and simple about when you are blogging, but also look at what styles work for you and your community as well. What things you think that your members will actually get involved in, and just keep reviewing it, see what works, see what doesn't work, and adapt all the time. So, I mean, these are only a few. There's only 9 different styles out there. There's a whole range of other styles out there, and some of the links I'll put on the presentation at the end when we'll share it. It's all on there as well, so you can go and click on those links. But it just gives you a way of thinking about it in a different way. You're trying to, in a way, show the history of the community and what great things it's been up to, things that are happening, and also be the topic expert as well. Or at least put things on there.
You cut out there for a second, Michael. I think we might have missed the last sentence.
Oh, sorry, I think my voice went then. No, so again, just try all these different things out. The last bit, just wanted to share this with you. I mean, if you are new to doing community facilitation, once you send this PDF out later, everyone, these are links to all different sort of like ebook type things we've created on the KnowledgeHub about facilitating your community, from a cookbook to managing it in 30 days. There's a little playbook about different techniques you can try out. I mentioned online chats. There's a guide to how you run online chats in a forum that we created as well. So there's a whole range of content that you can use and adapt for your own needs, for your own community, and it's just there for you to take away at the end of it as well. So, but again, the blogging element, if you're new to it, give it a go. It can be really useful. It's a great way of just reminding yourself of all the great things that your community is actually doing, because quite often as a facilitator, you're sitting there going, oh, what have I actually done? What difference have we made? And if you can look back at all the great things you've done, it gives you a bit of motivation to continue on as well. And also it tells your members the things that they've already done. So you can always remind them about some of the great things they've been doing already. And that's what you want to do, because it's all about making sure that people are getting a what's in it for them as well. So that's it for me. Nancy, you got anything that you want to add?
Yeah, just to build on what you said, but from my experience, that sort of storytelling, that sort of success trail is really important when you're building a community. So, you know, how many people you had on a call or in a discussion or anything like that. It doesn't have to be, I think people think it's got to be a really published, you know, article, like, you know, journalistic article or something like that. But for communities specifically, it can be this success story in a sort of story map. So, you know, first step we did this, second step, and just keep updating them. In Cadbury, people so often, and I'm sure all of you, are focusing on the next big project or the next big thing, and it was really important to take stock and reflect on the successes the community had delivered. And they then use those sound bites in their PDRs, in their annual reviews, in their, you know, all sorts of things, because they had these sound bites and things ready to use. So and then looking back, you know, if it's just like a couple of sentences every week or every month, you know, by the end of the year, you've got a really nice success story that you can summarize, that you can share and really celebrate with the community the progress that they've made. It's much harder sort of sitting down a month or, you know, once a year and sort of going, right, well, what's happened this year? So definitely I would get into the technique of doing that, even if it's not always for the community in that instance, but wouldn't you agree, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like a lot of people probably think about like the lessons learned approach in knowledge management. You wait till the end rather than trying to capture some of the
restricting people, isn't it? And they're not necessarily getting to the.
I mean, my last blog post I wrote was we just started doing the monthly telephone conference for all our new members. And that was really, really simple to do. And I just jotted down some of the key things we talked about. So this was our agenda that we created beforehand. And these are some of the key things that people talked about. And I posted it up and people were like, oh, yeah, I didn't realise we can do all those sort of things. Oh, that's a really good tip. That's a really good tip that we could use. So that's been quite good to use.
Annette's made a good point. She thinks hints and tips make for really good content. Oh, I totally agree with you on that, especially the intricacies of SharePoint and Office 365. That's something that you've been using a lot. Sounds like a good approach. And Adrian, you're having some trouble with the sound. I had a gap just a minute ago, but other than that, it's been fine. We'll have to, please do tell us on the chat if there's any problems with the sound or the quality. You know, we want you to get the most out of your time together today. I did just ask a question before I got a couple of more things to share with you, is how you use blogging and how might you use blogging going forward. You know, the process for this webinar may be different to what David Gertine was thinking, but it's very much, you know, we share some content and then we want a discussion about it. You know, so last time we had lots of interjections throughout the webinar. Today, not so much, which is fine. But, you know, if you do have any questions or comments, and I'm sure many of you are very experienced in this area, we'd love to hear from you. We don't, you know, claim to know everything, but the snippets that we do know, we want to share. So we're really practicing what we preach. So, if anyone feels comfortable and they could share how they currently use blogging or how they might use blogging going forward, and then we can see if any questions come up, and then I can share with you the other piece. But thank you, Michael. That was great.
Yeah, the idea is to keep it simple. Yeah. Yes, final slide. Keep it simple is the best thing to do, and give it a try. It's not going to hurt anyone, and all you're trying to do is to showcase your community in some way as well, which encourages other people to get involved, but keeps that history of the group as well. Okay, do you want me to pass you back over to you? or can you do that?
I was just waiting to see if there was any other questions on. Oh, one you missed out. Thank you. She's pretty new. There's Weekly Digest. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. I mean, again, you might want to focus on one specific aspect and then draw out a bit more detail about it. So again, that's a good thing you can do. But again, like Weekly Digest gives you the history of the group as well, because you can then highlight different things that have happened as well and go into a bit more detail.
And Darren earlier on the chat suggested, is it Yoast SEO? Is a new tool that helps you draft, live, ranks, readability, and improves your SEO performance. Also lets you know how you're getting on and how you could improve your ratings, which I think we could all do with it, even if something's not flagging or explaining things well. I'm interested in that.
It'd be interesting because a lot of people are a bit scared of writing blogs because it's public. And a lot of community platforms out there actually have a plugin function within them already. So that actually gives you like a nice test bed of just trying things out, because people normally within the same organization or in the same sort of sector, they're more likely to share something that's within their own sort of little silo in some way, rather than putting it out completely public. And that's a good way of just getting comfortable with writing blogs as you go along. And then you start realizing it's not as bad as you thought it would be. So again,
he's saying that a Weekly Digest is great. Darren's commented saying that for the internal team to pull out interesting stats so people can really understand what to focus on, which is fab. And Gavin hasn't quite got anywhere currently, but soon will, and will encourage many people to do it in the organisation. I don't think I used this story before, but at Alaska University, I worked with them once, and the professors were, horrified to share anything in a blog that wasn't, peer assessed and, brilliant report or article or book or something. And we got them to share insights on how they were using the audio equipment and the lecture theatre and the interaction tools and stuff like that. And they started blogging between each other about how they'd use these tools. And they got so engaged with these new tools and sharing that they started blogging externally. And so these people that were particularly reluctant, particularly not keen on the technology or the process or anything, then become, and if you look up Alaska now and you see their education tips, which is completely playing to what Annette said, edgy tips, you can see the great blogs that are coming from professors daily now, and it's really it's a really vibrant and active community. So just a little example for you there. Please, any more questions, and we will share with you. I just want to share a couple of other things with you before we close. Bear with me 1 second. Right. Oh, can you all see that?
No, it's just gone down a small. Did for a second.
Can you see that now?
Yes, that's fine.
Great. Just check if there's other questions. Annette said she's got a good idea to stand out, show potential, but sometimes stakes competition, definitely. And you know what, we definitely, with that example, we went with some hardball players who were quite had a lot of kudos, and worked with them individually, and then the rest will follow, the social proof example. Anyway, we've run 3 events now, 2 webinars and a meetup, and it's all been very positive. I'm going to ask you at the end to complete a quick survey to tell us what you think, but I'm just going to do a little plug for a very good friend of mine, Dr. Arthur Shelley, who you may have come across before, wrote The Organisational Zoo, where he connects metaphors with animals to help you work with different teams and different characters in the workplace. And he's got a workshop coming up on the 19th of April. Oh, just 1 sec. And, if you want to, it is a paid thing. So we're doing all of this for free because we just feel it's the right thing to do. But occasionally, if I can help a friend, then I'm going to, share this with you. So we feel there's a real challenge with knowledge management at the moment and community work that people don't always get connected to strategic goals or value or things like that. So this course sort of helps you with your elevator pitch, with all the tools and techniques to sort of elevate the great work that you're doing to influence future strategy and results. He takes some very complicated sort of theories and really breaks it down into really practical ways of working. Where are the biggest gaps or risks in your organisation? You know, how do you really improve performance in such a fast-moving and evolving environment? It's really building on all the work, you know, that David Gertines talked about the conversation. So changing from, you know, what is possible, what is really possible, to what's not possible, and things like that. We're all working in such a complex and highly changeable environment. People think that we can move along in one way, but actually it's constantly evolving and changing. So how do we have those conversations? What tools do we need to implement in projects and things like that, so that we really get this success that we're all aiming for? How do we create that environment to for that knowledge to really flow through our organisation? And it goes back to the value. You know, so often we start with who, what, why, but let's start with the value. What's the desired outcome, and then move backwards, and then really see what tools and processes, rather than getting a new tool, a new, you know, SharePoint 365, Microsoft Office, you know, how is that, what was the benefits of using it, all the different functionality that comes with that? What's the desired outcomes? We want crowdsourcing, or we want knowledge shared, we want people to ask for help or to celebrate. You know, let's move away from just the tools and the processes, and really confirming what value we can get. So there's loads of stuff. He's written a book on this. It's, you know, really in depth, but he really breaks it down to specific things that you can take away and deliver from working with complex project teams or matrix structures to, you know, resources, walking out the business, you know, really understand how you harness that, influence that, and make sure you get the most value out of it. So it's a bit of a shameless plug there, but I hope you, I've worked with Arthur at Cadbury sort of 15 years ago, and I'm a big supporter of his work. And he's not here very often. He lives in Melbourne, so just wanted to shamelessly promote that. So before we close, I just want to check there's no other questions. We're going to do another quick poll on how you found today's webinar, and then we're going to send you a link to a survey. It's also here, to ask us, you know, give us some focus. Should we continue these? If we do continue them, what should we focus on? What topics are most burning? What can you share? What could you do a webinar on, or a meetup, or host something, or what, you know, what would be the sorts of topics and things that you would find most interesting? While I'm chatting, Michael, could you just put the link to the survey? Or I thought I had it ready, but I haven't got it quite ready. SurveyMonkey tells me it takes 6 minutes to complete. I know we're all bombarded or saturated with giving research insights, but you know, we've been doing this because we felt it was really important, because there was a gap between all the big events that were happening, and already I know from talking to many of you, you've found other people or resources that have been of value. So we'd just like to know that for sure, and then if there is appetite, then we will continue. Just gonna
try and find a survey.
There you go. So the results from the survey, there's a couple of people not sure. That's completely fair enough, and the majority are very positive. So thank you for taking the time to share that. I'm going to be at the ARC Summit again this year. That's where we started this idea, actually. We were all sitting down for a drink afterwards and thought, why don't we do this more regularly? So I'll probably do the same this year if anyone wants to come for a drink. And, you know, the LinkedIn group has been created. I want to do another quick plug for Janine. Janine came to the first call back in January, and she connected with Susanna and a couple of others, and they're all based in the Northeast. So from this call, they're now set up a new group, which is fantastic, and they're going to have more meetups in that part of the world. So, you know, we can keep using this channel to share and connect with other people that are local to us. You know, there's no, you know, corporate backing or anything trying to control this. This is just a group of people that think there's a gap, and we wanted to pilot some things to see if it was useful for people. So any other questions. Let me just stop sharing that, and I'm going to put the link of the survey.
Got it. I've got it ready to go if you want, Nancy.
I can. Oh, have you done it?
Yep. Hopefully it's the right one.
I just thought I've just done the delete your one because I think yours is the wrong one. I've just realised because I changed it last night after speaking.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know how you delete it actually, but
Post your one again.
Post my one again.
That's the correct one.
Sorry, that was bad organisation on our part. But great, you know, hope you found today useful. Do tell us what you think. If we should never do this again, that's fine. We just want to know. We just want to not waste people's time, but focus on the things that are going to add the most value. We were doing this anyway with each other and a few others, so it's great to have more of you involved today. I think we'll, if we do continue, David's advice at the beginning about how we make it more interactive is definitely a possibility. At the moment, this structure was just to share some content and have a bit of discussion about it. So is there any other